Resource Center Practitioner Series. My name is Maria Malaguti. I am the founder and executive director at the Lyme Disease Resource Center in Northampton. Tonight we have acupuncturist Amy Major, who is local to Northampton, and she's going to be sharing her knowledge about Chinese herbal medicine and acupuncture and healing Lyme. We're very honored to have you, Amy, with all your experience and advocacy over the years, and would love to hear more.
Hi, thank you all for joining. So I want everyone who's here to understand, to know that I see you, that I understand that Lyme is not linear, that some days you may feel really well and other days you may feel really lousy. And you may get little warning to know whether it's going to be a good day or a lousy day, and that can change throughout the day. And I want you to know that I see that and I understand that. That's a part of what can happen with autoimmune diseases, as well as what are called goo diseases in Chinese medicine. What makes something a goo disease? It's something that hides, right? Like when somebody has long COVID, they can demonstrate some of the symptoms that folks with chronic Lyme can demonstrate, whether it's joint pain, brain fog, difficulty with clarity of thinking that someone might not define as brain fog, whether it's symptoms of POTS, meaning that your blood pressure is not stable, meaning that people get dizzy. So the point is, what can we do and what can I teach you to do at home? So I want to address a couple things that came up in questions. And one was that, acupuncture was the only thing that worked for somebody. From the folks that are here, can you let me know where you are located? And can you let me know that from the chat, Maria? Because that will help me. Are you all in Massachusetts or no? Let's see.
I have a Northern
Virginia. Wow. Okay. Well, because first of all, you can look at NCCAOM.org to find a licensed acupuncturist. But if you can also reach out to Maria, or she can reach out to me. You're welcome to reach out to me directly if you're looking for an acupuncturist that I might know. Because one of the things I've done, I'm not sure if it's in this bio or not, but I am the immediate past vice chair of the Acupuncture Society, American Society of Acupuncturists, and I was our vice chair of public policy. So I know people throughout the country, and if you're looking for a provider, I can help you find one if you want. And you can also go to nccaom.org to find one. So one of the things I want to talk to you all about is food, because somebody asked, oh, thank you so much, Maria. Somebody asked about if I had suggestions other than being gluten, dairy, soy, and corn free. And the first thing I want to say is being free of these things may help you, but each of you has your own unique constitution, and the way that Lyme presents in your body might be different than the person next to you, in the window next to you, and the way it presents in their body. So it can be vital to try in the spring rather than the winter, which we're coming into, but in the spring to think about doing an elimination diet to see truly the things that bother you, because gluten is an issue for some people, not others, right? And some people are completely gluten intolerant. Some people can eat it in certain contexts, but the most important thing from a Chinese medicine perspective is warming foods. If your body were an ATM, when you have something warm, you're making an automatic deposit into your energy bank. If you have something cold, you're making an automatic withdrawal. Does that make sense to folks? Okay. And if you have something room temperature, it's a wash. What's the first thing you get in a Japanese or Chinese restaurant? Tea. What's the second thing you get? Warm soup. What's the third thing you get in a Japanese restaurant? Oh, you get a marinated salad. Why marinated? Because marinated is cooking. So if you like salads, green salads, please pull them from the refrigerator for 15 minutes before you eat them and use a vinaigrette. Why? Because once you pull it from the refrigerator, you're warming the physical temperature of the food. And once you use some kind of a vinaigrette or lemon or lime juice, you're warming the nature of the food, right? Marinating is cooking. We learned this from ceviche, right? What happens when ceviche is marinated in lemon or lime juice? Oh, it cooks the fish, so it's less dangerous. And that's one of the things that will help you. Another thing that helps many is fresh ginger tea. So you want to cut a piece the size of your thumb and you want to simmer that for 10 minutes and then drink the tea. If you are not in the middle of a flare and can tolerate a little honey or maple syrup, you can have little honey or maple syrup if you enjoy that. If you're in the middle of a flare, you may not want to have anything with sugar because that can feed the bacteria. So it's really about making sure, in part, that you are eating foods that your body tolerates well. If you have had lots of antibiotics or in the throes of taking antibiotics now and are looking for ways to support yourself, you can absolutely use yogurt. Make sure it's one that is, high in protein, low in sugar, like Siggi's or Faye. Some people would say, well, wait a second, that's way too cold for me. Then, as long as you tolerate soy, if you can tolerate a little soy, miso soup, particularly South River miso, because it's made the traditional way, meaning that it is made in a way that is most healthy for you. And it's also not stored in plastic because, as we know, anything stored in plastic either has BPA, or anything that's plastic that says BPA free has some other lovely form of toxin that's going to leach into your food unless it's in glass. And South River miso is the only miso I have found that's in a glass jar. So, depending on how sensitive you are and what your other concomitant symptoms are, you may want to pay attention to that. If you tolerate lacto fermented vegetables, and again, all of this is what works for you. If you know something doesn't work for you, please take it off your list. If it's something you haven't tried, feel free to try it. You can either make your own lacto fermented vegetables, right? Meaning pickles or daikon or ginger or whatever it is that you like, beets, or you can buy them. Real Pickles is a good company that has lacto fermented vegetables. So does Bubby's Pickles, and they're in glass, and they also make carrots. So you can find what works for you, but making sure that you are either taking a probiotic or using lacto fermented vegetables, right, to get your probiotics in your foods or miso or yogurt, that will increase the digestibility of your food, which will take pressure off your digestive system, right? My goal is to help you think about things you may not have thought about before, because what I tell people every day is my goal is to teach you the smallest things that can affect the greatest change. So what are some small things that can affect great change in terms of helping you feel better? Well, there's a gentleman whose name is Pavo Erola. He died, I don't remember when he died, but he wrote a lot of health books in the 60s and the 70s. And one of the things he talked about was a dry brush massage. You can either use a brush or you can use one of those stretchy, they're often Japanese cloths to exfoliate. And you want to do this every morning. Why? Because our skin is our biggest detox organ, right? So you start at the bottoms of your feet and you rub them, and then your legs, and then up your back, your arms, your torso, your breasts, your neck, and your face before you shower. Why? Because it does a couple things. It takes off dead skin cells, it invigorates the tissue. So you're going to feel better and more awake and more alert. And it's just going to stimulate your nerve system and your fascia in a really gentle way that hopefully isn't going to cause you pain, but is going to invigorate you, and which will also eventually help your thinking be clearer. Right? For anyone with brain fog or who's really tired or has a stiff neck, you want to soak your feet in either a bucket or a special foot soaker or over the side of the tub in a cup of Epsom salts to the top of a crew sock. Why? Because you want to cover your Achilles tendon. If you've ever been to a chiropractor, they go like this with your heels. What are they doing? One thing they're doing is they're checking for leg length. And we all have legs that are a little bit longer than the other, and it changes from time to time. It's not static because we're not static. We're always in flux. The other thing it does is it relaxes the Achilles tendon, which automatically relaxes your neck and cervical spine. So it's going to do a number of things. One of my patients said to me, "You're going to tell me to soak my feet in hot water. And it's going to be a completely different thing than the last time you told me to soak my feet in hot water." Why? Because there's a lot of reasons we want to soak our feet in hot water. Right? It's going to help with clear thinking. It's going to decrease neck pain. It can also avert migraine headaches. So if you're someone who tends to headaches with Lyme, as soon as you start to feel one coming on, if you have migraines with aura, as soon as you start to have an aura, go soak your feet in hot water with a cup of Epsom salts to the top of a crew sock. Some people can fend off a headache by doing that. It's also going to help you sleep better, help you be less anxious, because it just roots your life force down and roots heat under the cooking pot. Right? Another super small thing that many of you are probably already doing is just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you're having a particularly difficult pain moment or pain day, I want to invite you to use box breathing if you're not. What is this thing I speak of? It's breathing in through your nose to the count of 4, holding to the count of 4, and out through your mouth to the count of 4. Right? Because when we do that, and that counts as meditation too, so it's good. You can cross a couple things off your list, right? You're using box breathing, you're soaking your feet in hot water. All of these things are going to help you be your best and most centered self. And if you have the opportunity to do this both at the beginning of your day and the end of your day, it also will help routinize you. When folks are in chronic pain, it can feel like everything blurs together and my day has no boundaries. So making sure that you do similar things at similar times of day will give you scaffolding throughout your day. Whether that's I wake up at X time and I do some qigong or some breathing, or I soak my feet in hot water. But give yourself permission to create a rhythm that works for you, that supports you in this moment, however you're feeling. And that might be different than other days when you feel either more well or less well. And I want to invite each of you to make sure that you're building a team of providers that sees you and that listens to you, because each and every one of you deserves to have that. And particularly when you have any kind of chronic disease, it's important to build a team who sees you. And if you don't feel like your provider is supportive, please find another one. As I tell patients who come to see me, if I'm not the right provider for you, please teach me what you're looking for so I can help you find the person that's best going to support you. Because every person deserves to be seen and heard and listened to with their head, their heart, and the back of your neck. And if you feel like you've got a symptom that your provider is not taking seriously, either switch providers or get a second opinion. Right? Because people can, providers can act as if our patients are there for us rather than it should be the other way around. We are here to serve you, right? No matter how busy I am, if I'm not serving your needs, you should fire me, because your needs deserve to be seen, heard, felt, and acknowledged. And you need to let your provider know if there's a way that they're not meeting your needs. And I'll say to people every day, I can change anything I'm doing, but I can't change what I don't know. So please find your voice with your providers, because what's important to you, right? The VA is now switching from what the ethos of what's the matter with you to what matters to you. Right? It's called a whole health perspective. And the VA and many hospital systems are now looking at this. So I want to encourage you to teach your providers about this. The VA defense, the DoD Defense and Veterans Pain Scale isn't just about pain. So if someone's, is talking to you and says, well, what's your pain like? Please know that part of what ideally is taken into account is, what's your sleep like? What's the quality of your pain? And how does having the pain that you're having in this moment impact your ability to, the keywords are for any provider, your activities of daily living. So what that means is, and what will get you more care, is when you can describe how it impacts your ability to grocery shop, get in and out of the car. Are you able to go up and down stairs? Can you do dishes but not vacuum? Can you do neither of those things? Can you do some of those things some of the time? Do you have anxiety that is either simmering below, ever present, screaming at you? Let your providers know, because all of these things are tied into not just the pain scale, but your overall health and well-being, right? And we are all here as providers, hopefully, to support your overall health and well-being. If you are having nerve pain, speak to your provider about whether or not it makes sense for you to be on ALA, alpha lipoic acid. 1,600 milligrams a day of alpha lipoic acid is what is often recommended for neuropathy. It's has many fewer side effects than gabapentin. And if you're on gabapentin, I'm not telling you to go off, to be clear. I'm suggesting you bring it up with your provider to ask them whether it could work in addition to, in lieu of, or for you to bring it to assess with your provider, right? Because what's happening to you, in you, and what matters, right, to you, rather than what's the matter with you, matters. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So in terms of foods, I want to encourage, for things like Lyme, for folks who aren't eating a lot of sweet potatoes can be a great ally for you. Protein and fats are your friends, right? And so that means nuts, as long as you're not allergic to tree nuts. If you're allergic to them, certainly don't eat them. I often recommend almonds or pecans or pistachios over peanuts. Why? Because peanuts often have mold in them, and that can often be a trigger for folks who have Lyme, right? And as I was discussing with Maria and Nellie, the Lyme tests can be tricky because you may be having really intense symptoms, but it might not show up on a test. That doesn't mean you're not having symptoms. That means we don't have a test that's sensitive enough to pick up what's going on in your body. But I really want to encourage you to honor what's going on in your body. And as Nellie and Maria have both been doing, to please hydrate. I'm a big fan of Noon tablets, NUUN, because they don't have a lot of junk in them. And because we need electrolytes as well as we need water. You can, if you don't like Noon tablets, you can make a soup that's 50% potatoes, 50% anything else, pinch of salt. And now we're back to our friend Pavo Arola, who taught me that, right? Because you can make your own electrolyte either with 50% potatoes, 50% anything else, pinch of salt as a soup. You can use a quart of water, juice of a lemon, a couple of tablespoons of maple syrup, pinch of salt. Or you can use Noon tablets, but make sure when anyone has Lyme symptoms, right? If we're having brain fog, if we're having nerve pain, if we're having sensations that are difficult, you want to make sure you're having electrolytes, not just water, right? And that you're having a plethora of warm things, preferably warm thing first in the morning, whether that's hot water with lemon, right? And if you're constipated ever in the morning, that's a good thing to start with. My grandmother highly recommended it. She's no longer with us, but it's an old remedy, right? Hot water with lemon, super simple. If you like ginger, please, this is the time of year to be drinking ginger tea. Ginger is warming and moving and extends life force to the limbs and warmth. So it's a good thing to incorporate in your stir fries if you make them. Throw a slice or two in your soups. And making ginger tea, it's just gonna feel good, be good for you. You know, any questions so far?
I'm not seeing any questions popping up in the chat. People are also welcome to unmute themselves to ask a question at this point, since Amy's asking. I guess I was just curious, aside from ginger, are there any like other kind of warming herbs that can be helpful to have like as a tea? Like I tend to have chamomile tea a lot, and was just curious about that.
Well, that's really cooling, but if it nourishes you and works for you, it's fine. If you know, what I would say is, pick up a thing of Bengal spice and see if you like it, because that is, it's a traditional warming tea. It's celestial seasonings. It's not expensive and it's something to try, but that has ginger and other warming teas in it. But if you hate it, don't have it. But it's worth trying because chamomile is very cooling. It is lovely and relaxing. It's also very cooling and it might be fine for you. And for other people, it might not work for. So it's about also trying and seeing what works for you. Scallions are very warming and can be great in stir fries and salads to warm the nature of the food a little bit because it's warming and dispersing, meaning that it moves, right? Because we want things that are ginger capsules are warming and staying. So if you're freezing all the time, ginger capsules might be a really good thing for you. They're in the category in Chinese medicine of warming the interior and expelling the cold. But raw ginger is in the spicy, warm, relieve the surface category because it moves, right? And so even the same thing prepared differently does different things in our bodies. So it's a really great question. Cinnamon is great. If you like oatmeal or congee, for people that have difficulty with digestion, making overnight oats or overnight congee, which is basically rice porridge with cinnamon. As long as you're not diabetic. If someone is diabetic, they're not going to want to use rice porridge because they're going to send their blood glucose over 200. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you can account for it with insulin. But if you're a type 1 diabetic, you probably want to have eggs in the morning for the protein.
We have
So
a
again,
we have a question for you.
Sure.
Warm water and apple cider, just a couple drops of apple cider into the warm water in the morning. Is
You
that
mean
a
apple
warm
cider
thing?
vinegar?
Yes.
Yes. Sure. Again, it's about what you tolerate. Like I tried all sorts of things. I have multiple autoimmune diseases myself, and I tried all these things that were supposed to be so helpful. And some of them were killing me because I have celiac disease, which I didn't know. And so having the macrobiotic roasted barley tea, while it looked like a great idea on paper, was not a good idea for me personally. So if you tolerate hot water with apple cider vinegar, by all means, do it. It alkalinizes the system and it really works well for some people. I did it for a while. I was allergic to it, so it didn't work so well for me. But the thing is honoring, trying, being willing to try new things, but also noting how you feel. If it works for you, by all means do it. Right? We all know the old joke, Doc, it hurts when I do this, so don't do that. Right? So be aware, and keeping a journal of different things that you try and how you feel can make a difference. When I was in acupuncture school, there was an article we read by Andrew Weil who talked about, it's not about being symptom free. It's about managing what's going on in your body. Because he's like, something always hurts in my body, but it's about how do you deal with what's hurting, and are you doing it in a way that's helping you grow, change, become the best version of yourself that you can be, because that's the goal. you know, and it might be that you can't do, that I can't do what Paul, Mary, and Susie are doing, right? You know, I used to row every morning for 45 minutes, blew a tendon, can't do that, but I do Pilates in the morning now instead. It's about finding what works for you, for your body and your unique system that supports you and sustains you to continue your healing process, right? So fresh lemon is great. It's full of enzymes, even if it's in room temperature water, right? And not everything has to be hot, but there's a difference between everything having to be hot and having things that are cold with ice as we move into the winter, because that's going to draw from your energy rather than nourish and sustain you. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Are we good so far? So Chinese medicine is not, and I'm not saying don't be vegetarian. I'm just saying Chinese medicine is not, believes that it's really hard to get enough heat as a vegetarian. So if you are a vegetarian, please make sure you are doing things like incorporating ginger and cinnamon into your food, making sure you're not having super cold things from the fridge in the winter, because as someone who is dealing with either chronic Lyme or acute Lyme, it's going to impact your digestion. And it's said in Chinese medicine that when the digestion is good, everything heals well. If the digestion is not good, healing is difficult. So that has to do with the digestion of your food as well as bowel movements. And speaking about bowel movements, we want to talk about fiber, right? Soluble fiber, insoluble fiber. So chia seeds, if you tolerate them, can be really lovely and wonderful. If you like coconut milk and tolerate it, you can make chia seed pudding with coconut milk. If you don't, but you tolerate yogurt, you can throw a teaspoon or two of chia seeds in your yogurt. Depending on how your body works, you may also want to add things like psyllium husks in water. It depends, you know, what's going on in your body. But when your digestion is working well, everything else will be working well, and you will heal more quickly. Anything that anyone would like to hear about in terms of coverage, because the goal is to make sure I'm addressing the issues that are up for you rather than what I think you might want to know.
Maybe you can speak a little bit more about what's going on in Massachusetts right now with licensing and coverage.
Oh, sure, for acupuncture. So in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, all Medicaid plans cover acupuncture. So I'm going to say that again. All Medicaid plans cover acupuncture. Some of them cover unlimited, some of them cover 20, some 36. And depending on the plan, you may or may not be able to get more than what is currently allotted. Connecticut also has insurance coverage under all Medicaid plans. Most commercial insurance insurances in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts cover acupuncture. I'll be testifying next week, as I shared with Maria, again, about trying to get all insurances in the Commonwealth to cover acupuncture for the treatment of pain, PTSD, nausea, and opiate addiction. Because the evidence for acupuncture for the treatment of pain is just phenomenal. And if you don't have coverage, I want to encourage you, if you are able to work, to talk to your HR department to choose, if you want acupuncture, to choose a plan that has covered it. So Medicare, that is such an interesting question. Mabella, is that the correct way to say your name? Okay, thank you. So it's confusing. How is it confusing? So Medicare covers the procedure of acupuncture, but licensed acupuncturists as a provider group are not providers under Medicare. So you can reach out to your member of the House of Representatives, right? This is national, not state. In my case, it's Jim McGovern. If people in Springfield, it's Richie Neal. But to ask them to support Representative Judy Chu's bill, it's HR 3133, the Acupuncture for Our Seniors Act, which would have licensed acupuncturists become providers under Medicare. Medicare covers 12 treatments for acupuncture for chronic low back pain, with the option of 8 more if you can demonstrate that it is helping you. Most Medicare Advantage plans, not all, will cover acupuncture by licensed acupuncturists because we are not currently covered by Medicare. Does that make sense, Mabella? Okay. So Medicare Advantage, yes. Medicare, not yet, but we're working on it. And it's something also that, you know, I personally am working on. There's a national webinar about that on Wednesday about where we are in the process. But, you know, given that we've been speakerless for quite some time, there's a lot of things grinding to a halt. You know, it's a oh, you can turn it in? Okay, that's great. Now, is that for traditional Chinese medicine or is that for acupuncture, Vanessa? Like, does that mean that you are submitting to Medicare or you're submitting to?
Oh,
Because you-
no, I'm sorry. It just with my regular insurance, I can't turn it in because they don't do the diagnosis code.
Have you asked your provider, your acupuncturist?
Yeah.
They're actually obligated by law to give you a super bill.
Oh, okay.
What state are you in?
Michigan.
They
Yeah.
actually, I believe, under their Practice Act, and you can look at their
Okay.
Practice Act because it is astounding to me that people do not read their own Practice Acts. I actually gave that, I was teaching a class on advocacy at the New England School of Acupuncture, and I suggested that the instructor give the assignment of every person having to read the Practice Act to come back with 3 things they didn't know about it. Because
Oh,
I believe they are obligated by law. If you ask for a super bill, they have to give you one.
okay.
And if they don't, that's a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's really, I mean, that is not best practices. I'm sorry. I serve on a
Our
number of
insurance will
committees.
cover like 20 a year, but I
Mhm.
haven't even turned any in because I just keep going there and keep paying it.
Well, that's
'cause
great, but tell
I'm
them, you know
feeling
what?
better. So
Well, and that's wonderful, but they also, I mean, you
yeah.
know, they have a right not to take insurance and to have you bill, but you have a right to ask for a super bill and they have an obligation to give you one with
Okay.
appropriate diagnosis codes and CPT, which are procedure codes.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
that's not rocket science. And they can look it up. It will take them 5 minutes.
Okay.
And if they have staff, do they have staff or they do it themselves?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they have staff, that's a no. I mean, yeah.
Everybody's gotten lazy in this day and age and don't
Well,
want to
I am
do
not
anything.
lazy. I do not have that luxury. Let me tell you, I do
Right.
not have staff, and I give people super bills if they ask for it, with diagnosis codes and procedure codes, and I also bill all insurances. So I don't know what to say other than it's the cost of doing business. And when you're a healthcare provider, we have certain obligations to our patients. One of them is to chart appropriately and thoroughly, and the other is to provide receipts, super bills, invoices as they ask for them. You know, you are not asking for all your records, and if somebody does that, we're still obligated. Like if someone's in a car accident and an insurance company says we want the records, all the records, they'll pay a records fee of up to $25, but you still have to provide them. Not providing them is not an option. We're legally bound to do that. And I guarantee you that in Michigan, they're legally bound to keep their records and provide super bills if you ask for one. I know Michigan is different because Michigan just got their licensure act together. Like they did not have a licensure act for a long time. It's only like 5 years old or less. But it depends on the plan, Mabella. Medicaid, it depends on the state. What state are you in, my dear? You're here? Massachusetts? Yeah. In Massachusetts, if you have Medicaid and Medicare, your provider can bill Medicaid. Like if for someone that has Commonwealth Care Alliance or Mass Health Standard, they can bill for that. Absolutely. Anyone else? Any questions? Concerns? So outside of food, one thing you may want to do if you haven't done recently is go through with your provider over your list of meds. And if you have a list of meds from multiple providers, you may want to speak to a pharmacist first. Why would you want to speak to a pharmacist first? Because when medical providers look for medications, they're looking at something called the physician's desk reference. Now, one might think that this is a book that talks about all the consequences of the different medications. Actually, it is merely a compilation of the advertisements that are put out by the drug companies. So if you have questions about your medications or interactions, the person you want to speak with is your pharmacist, because they are the ones that have the best training to assess whether your medications are interacting with each other and whether there's anything of concern. For anyone particularly on blood pressure medications, there have been a number of different recent recalls for specific meds. So if you are taking one, please speak with your pharmacist and your medical provider to make sure that it's the best one for you without any consequences to your kidneys or your heart, right? Because the goal is hopefully that everyone that is giving you anything to take is taking into account everything else that you are taking, right? Whether it's Chinese herbal medicine or pharmaceuticals or over-the-counter medications. It's important that somebody be monitoring all of them and aware that you're not doing double duty. What do I mean by double duty? Well, you can't take St. John's wort with an SSRI. There are certain Chinese medicines that one would not give with an SSRI, right? We want to just be aware that the providers you are seeing have your best and unique interests at heart, right? Because different people have Lyme disease differently. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that each of you is getting the care that you deserve from your skilled providers, but with attention and intention to who you are, what is going on in your constitution, and what your symptoms are in this moment. And the reminder is that things can change. If you've been on a medication for 10 years, it might be a great medication, but if not, what's it doing and why are you taking it? And is it in your best interest to continue to take it? Or do you have consequences that are less than stellar from taking that? Does that make sense? Another way folks can get probiotics is to use kombucha to help support your gut if you tolerate it. If you don't tolerate it, again, don't have it. It's about finding what works for you, which might be different, again, from what works for your neighbor, right? Or what works for the person in the square to the right of you, left of you, above you, below you, because we are all unique individuals, and making sure that we are learning as much as we can, but also learning what works for you. For you, Mabella, it said you have celiac disease, right? Is that what I heard you say? So if you have celiac disease, something to think about is not, and it's a challenge, but like I will only eat in restaurants with a certified gluten-free kitchen, because their cross-contamination is it's rampant, and you never know how careful someone's being, right? And we have a gluten-free kitchen, and then we have a toaster oven in the dining room. That toast goes in, that goes from the freezer into that toaster, because in our household, if I'm cross-contaminated, if mama isn't happy, not only is nobody happy, but nobody else is fed. So, you have to figure out what works for you and honor and do what works for you, whether it works for other people. And part of it might be, Mabella, that when you go out places, that you bring snacks that fit in your purse that have protein and fat. Or I don't know if you're familiar with Bobos, which are little oat bars that just, it's a snack that can tide you over and sustain you and is certified gluten-free to make sure that you're safe, because being safe in the way that works for you is what's important. And while it's great to know what works for 90% of people, it's great to know what works for Maria and Nellie. If those things don't work for Mabela, then it's not a good idea for Mabela to do those things, right? Because each of us, and the more that we learn about what works for us, I want to encourage you to honor that and also bring that to your providers, because the Patient's Bill of Rights talks about, you as an individual being treated with compassion for who you are and what you bring. And it's incredibly frustrating. I know, as I told Maria and Nellie, I was at the State House when there were over 180, 200 people in t-shirts with Lyme disease talking about the problems of getting antibiotics when you need antibiotics. And that's equally as much as a problem as being able to get supplements and herbal medicine when you know that's what works for you and that's what you need to have. So I want to encourage each of you to advocate to your providers. And if they're not listening to you or not seeing you, to find another provider. We work for you, right? You don't work for us. We work for you. It is our job to be of service to each of you. And if we are not doing that, please fire us. Please find another provider, because each of you deserves to have a provider see you for the unique and precious individual that you are. And each of you deserves to be treated that way by your providers at all times. People can be busy, but you're paying for a service. Yes, Barbara, you have a question?
No, I have a question and a statement. I'm the one with 7 cases. And so I have actually been diagnostic on paper with 7 cases. I have a farm here. So I've been to innumerable people, DOs, functional. I even went to Temple University, and my problems stem from my whole gut. And so I'm doing 80 billion of my probiotic. Every time I walk into an office, they don't even want to hear it. They just say, infectious disease or nothing. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to deal with it. I'm in Southeast Pennsylvania. So
where are you?
resort, I'm actually in Bucks County,
Okay.
right on the river.
Okay.
So I really want to get back to acupuncture. I actually got pregnant at 43 with acupuncture. So, I had a total occlusion at 43 and I got pregnant.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I want to get back because this is not working.
I want you to see my friend Eric Raymond Buckley. He just moved. He's near Kennett, I think.
Oh, that's far. That's south.
Far. Okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
far.
All right.
But
well,
I would definitely, you have my information. I was going to ask you if there's anyone in this area or that I could go on for an association to talk to.
Okay. So I'm going to give you my cell phone and I want you to text me exactly where you are. And I will talk to my friends in Pennsylvania, because I have the luxury of I have friends who teach in Pennsylvania. So I will find you someone, but it's 413-222-8616. So text me with your zip code and your town in Bucks County, and I will talk to friends in Pennsylvania, because the beauty of doing policy work throughout the country means I know a lot of really smart people.
I figured you did.
And they can help you find someone for you, because but if you're not doing miso, I think you came on a little bit later. Did you hear me talk about miso, Barbara? And is that something you tolerate?
I can't do soy. I can't do corn. I can't do gluten. I can't do any kind of dairy.
Okay. Can you do coconut yogurt?
I can't do any of that. I went from 170 to 220, my cholesterol, because I was doing coconut for the last 2 years. So I got off coconut. I'm just doing oat.
Are you doing psyllium every day?
No.
Okay. Can you not tolerate it?
No, I've never tried it. No one's ever mentioned it.
Okay. Well, psyllium husks has been demonstrated.
Oh, psyllium. Yeah. No, I haven't done that in years.
Well, I want you to do it. Why? Because if you do it every day for 6 months, your cholesterol should be 20% lower.
Oh, and I'm also taking it I'm taking a cholesterol supplement as well, but did drop it right down.
Are you taking a
I'm saying-
statin or?
No, oh no,
Okay.
I'm taking something that I've gotten from the health food store that's
Niacinamide or what do you, well, whatever you're taking, make
yeah.
sure you're taking CoQ10 because all of the
Yes.
things like red rice yeast, they deplete endogenous CoQ10 that exists in our body. So if you're taking either a statin or anything that lowers cholesterol, that's not psyllium husks, or dried ginger, which has also been demonstrated. You can look that up on Google Scholar and the Cochrane Review that just taking dried ginger, which should help your gut, will also help your cholesterol. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, the cholesterol, it's just that my gut will wake me up at night. If I have anything with a slight semblance of sugar, I'm up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and I'm like ready to go. It's terrible.
What's
And
your,
I'm a nurse, so I go to
Yeah.
work at 6 o'clock in the morning and it's
what
just,
kind
it's
of
horrible.
nursing do you do?
I just LPN. I go out to the
LPN.
home.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your fasting blood glucose?
They have not done that recently. I asked, and my GP is just like, I don't think it's that. And I'm like, I'm Medicaid because I was out of work since COVID. I didn't get the vaccine. And so they have said to me that, they don't think it's my fasting. And I said, well,
Okay,
can we at
guess
least
what?
try it?
They don't know. So my suggestion would be to buy a glucometer. Add a pump. I
Okay.
mean, it's $20. You can usually get a glucometer for like $20 to $25 that will come with strips, or you can buy 10 strips for another $20. Test it every morning for 10 days. That'll give you really good information.
Okay.
And the fasting blood glucose is the most inexpensive test possible. So I find it obscene that a provider will not do that, because that is a basic, as you know, that's basic on any metabolic panel. So I don't understand that at all, personally.
Yes. As long as I do not go off my diet, I don't go corn, soy, I'm fine. I can get 7 hours, but otherwise I get 3 and 4 at a clip.
Right. But the thing is, my concern is if you're waking up, anyone that wakes up, between 1 and 5, that's actually an indicator to do a fasting blood glucose test. So,
Okay. That's what I
and
said
yeah,
to him.
yeah.
And also,
You may want to get a new GP.
Yeah, I've tried
I mean,
3.
Okay.
Once they hear the word Lyme in Pennsylvania, they just don't want to be bothered. It's too
I'm so
complicated.
sorry.
I was told. I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And aren't we one of the highest incidents of Lyme here?
I don't know. I know Massachusetts, Connecticut. I mean, Virginia is common more with Virginia and Texas are brewing a lot of alpha gal where it's warmer and wetter, and there might be alpha gal in Pennsylvania as well.
The real numbers are unknown because doctors are dismissing their patients.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's and there might be I know you said you've been to Temple. I would try and see if there's anybody at CHOP. It's right near Temple Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I know it's Children's Hospital, but there might I'm gonna actually ping my daughter's doing her PhD in school psychology, so she's interning at CHOP. I'll ask her if she can find a Lyme person there. She might be able to, she might not, but
And what
it
they
won't
said
hurt
at
to ask.
Temple and other infectious that I've gone to, that every test I've had, I've been treated properly in their eyes. I've had the antibiotics of Doxy, and they said, you're done. You're treated as far as we're concerned. I drove 2 hours to Temple, and these young girls came out and they're like, no, there's nothing else we can do for you.
Wow.
Nothing. And they didn't believe in anything. I brought a couple books with me. What's the gentleman's name? Because it's affecting my memory. It's really bad.
Mm.
Barbara.
I brought Horowitz's book. They wanted no part of it. They basically were laughing at me.
Barbara, do you know about the search engines for Lyme literate physicians?
Yes, I've been to what is it? What's the initials?
ILADS?
ILADS, yes. And there's nobody here anymore. They've all gone out of business, and 2 of the gentlemen actually died in the last 2 years from COVID. Yep.
I'll do a little research. I'm going to make a note and
that'd
get
be
back
great.
to you.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I've written to ILADS a few times. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
It's very frustrating when someone doesn't take you seriously when you're having symptoms and don't feel well. But particularly when someone has any kind of gut symptom and you're waking up in the middle of the night,
Yep.
that's, I mean, A1C is the least expensive thing to rule out. So I don't understand that.
And I even went to a gastro here in a large city, a huge gastro. And they were just like, here are these tests you can do. You know, of course, we want to do an upper GI. I said, I'm not doing an upper GI. It's not my upper GI. They had me a laundry list of their typical that they do. And I said, I'm not doing that. And so she basically said, okay, you know, you're going to have to go somewhere else. I said, that's fine. So that's what I get up against. You know, once they know that I know more than the average, and I'm not a typical Lyme patient. I mean, you know, physiologically, I'm fine. I mean, I don't have anything neuromuscular. I don't have anything else. And they just were like, you're fine. You're fine. That's something else.
I would still, especially given what you just said, I would get a glucometer and test yourself.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. I
Because
can't believe I didn't think of that. Because I've done my stick. I've done a friend of mine is diabetic, and I've done a stick, and I'm fine.
So I wanna just hop in here that we've got about half an hour left. So I just want to make sure there's an opportunity for Amy to be able to share anything more that she wanted to, or just an opportunity for other people to ask some questions. But we really appreciate you getting to get some more information out there, Barbara.
Thank you.
So I would love to hear from some other folks. What's going on for you and what are your biggest conundrums?
Hi there. I don't know if you
Hi.
can hear me. My name is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. So I've been listening while I'm driving, sorry to say, but it was really important for me to hear this. I just wanted to let people know that might be at the beginning of this trek. I'm about 7 years out from acute Lyme for a year, and now I think I'm like 90% better, but ILADS, their documentation on the internet actually, I believe, saved my life because I was able to pinpoint what I had. And the other thing is the acupuncture really helped me to get a little bit of use back in my hands and then be able to eventually figure things out and get better. But I really appreciate the knowledge I heard tonight. I've learned a couple of things, and I just really appreciate everybody. So I just want to give those 2 tips about the acupuncture and the ILADS data. I hope it's still on the website. I'm sorry to hear that 2 of the main people have passed. That's a real shame.
I am gonna put an article in the chat group that is a piece that I wrote about using heat therapy and moxa to heal, because I use a lot of moxa in my practice, but moxa is stinky, and unless you're at your acupuncturist, it might be tricky and smelly, and you know, for some folks with Lyme, the smell can be a lot. But in this article that I just stuck in the chat, I talk about how to use a hairdryer because there's no smell. People often have one, even if they don't use it to dry their hair. That folks often have a hairdryer at home, and it's ways to use a hairdryer to support your vital energy. Because one of the things that happens often with chronic Lyme is fatigue, and you can use a hairdryer to help you have, oh, beautiful, Vanessa. So you can use a hairdryer to help. using it on your low back, in the hollow of your low back will help. Use it there in the morning until it feels super hot. Then do it again 3 times, your low back, the bottoms of your feet, top of your head. If you just do that every morning, that's going to make a huge difference in the way you start your day and in your energy level. I also want to share with you one of the things that I say all day, every day in my office, which is cotton is useless when wet. We're coming into winter. You go in a building, your feet will sweat. You go outside, and if you are wearing cotton socks, you now have wet, cold feet, right? And on the bottoms of your feet, which is kidney 1, from a Chinese medicine perspective, Houston, we have a problem. So if you tolerate wool, please wear wool socks. If you don't, please wear fleece socks or something that will stay warm when your feet get cold and wet and sweaty. Because if you have cold and wet feet, it is going to increase your feelings of fatigue and increase your feelings of brain fog and decrease your feelings of vitality. Does that make sense? But I mean, acupuncture is a profound tool. Something that your acupuncturist hopefully can do is there's something called battlefield acupuncture, which are teeny tiny, it looks like bling in people's ears. They're teeny tiny leave-in needles that are used for pain and trauma, that was developed by Colonel Dr. Richard Niemtzow, who is an Air Force colonel, retired, as well as a medical oncologist. And he developed this system that's all based on polyvagal theory, which is really helpful for Lyme disease folks, that your provider can either use those needles in your ears or they can do the leave-in needles so that you can get several days more of extension from your acupuncture treatment. So you can also go online to Amazon and get ear seeds, because ear seeds can help with pain, and you can use them on body points. You can also use them yourself in your ears. That's self-care that you can do on your own. If you have an acupuncturist, they can teach you where to put them if you ask them to. They should hopefully be willing to do that for you. But you can also look it up. That's self-care, and ear seeds are legal to do yourselves. And it's another way you can support yourselves, along with wool socks, hydrating well, warming foods, nourishing foods, all of these things. So, please look at what supports you and how you can use what you know to support yourself. Lentils are a great thing for many folks with Lyme. I encourage people to have lentil soup 3 to 5 times a week. Why? Because it's a great source of fiber, and it's warm and it's nourishing, and you can throw some sweet potatoes in there. And it's just a really good source of protein and fiber, right? Protein and fat and fiber are our friends. And I want to encourage you to find the sources that work for your body. Because some folks can't tolerate soy, other folks, incorporate it and need to have it. Do make sure you're using iodized salt at least sometimes to protect your thyroid, right? Unless you're eating seaweed. Some people love nori and eat it all the time, but making sure you're getting dietary iodine is important for the health of your thyroid, which in Chinese medicine is part of the triple heater, and making sure that that is operating well helps all of your other organ systems operate well. Does that make sense? Anyone else? Any concerns, any questions, anything you have thought about asking someone but didn't know how? Hi, it's nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a bad experience with acupuncture, and I was wondering about that. I, for years, was given too much medication for hypopituitarism. And when I went to the acupuncturist, I said that I had hypopituitarism.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting a horrible headache that ended up turning into optic neuritis.
Did you see this person once or more than once?
It was the first time.
The first
And
time.
I went back and I said, you have to fix me. This headache is not going away. And I have this terrible eye problem. And it did get better, but I didn't really pursue much with them because I was afraid of that.
So it's hard. I wasn't in the room. So like questions I would have was like, did they use electric acupuncture on you or no?
No.
Did they, like, it depends. Like, so what I want to say is there's a piece of me that wants to say, don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, because there's a lot of different ways of practicing and different providers. Even people trained at the same school will have really different ways of addressing things, but it depends. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they did it. I don't know what kind of needles they used.
Mhm.
Right? Some people, when someone says, oh, I have a headache, they put needles in their head. I put needles in your feet to draw the energy down. So it may be that it just wasn't a good match for you. It may be that acupuncture is good for you and it wasn't the right provider. It may be that it's not the right thing for you. I don't know.
I also
know?
found out that I had lead poisoning and
Oh,
was very sensitive to metals. So, maybe, so I've stayed away from it since then. And I just was wondering.
okay. So I would recommend you potentially see someone that does specifically network chiropractic, because of the optic neuritis, network chiropractic is a very specific gentle touch type of chiropractic that really is all about the tone of your nerve system. And so having a lead issue or being allergic to heavy metals shouldn't be an issue. The issue with acupuncture needles would be if you're allergic to nickel, because nickel, acupuncture needles have nickel in them.
Okay.
There are gold coated acupuncture needles. I know because I got them for someone who wanted to see me who was allergic to nickel. And then I bought the needles and then they said, oh, I'm actually not going to come in for acupuncture. I said, okay.
So so you said they're nickel. They're not surgical steel.
Some of them are surgical steel, but most of them have nickel as an ally. All acupuncture needles should be sterile, single-use, disposable, but even stainless steel has alloys in it. So you'd want to look. Sarin needles might be most appropriate for you also, because they're silicone coated, and so they're easier to receive, but it depends what the person's doing, and it's impossible for me to say without knowing what they did, unfortunately. Like, I'm not sidestepping, I just don't know.
Right.
So, and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, or you have to have enough information to speak appropriately and responsibly. So I'm going to say that I hear you, and I would try, especially if you tend towards headaches and tend towards, if you've ever had optic neuritis before, you definitely want to be one of the people that soak your feet in hot water to draw heat down. But yep, sorry, go ahead.
I had forgotten that I did go to a chiropractor afterward who did not do chiropractic on me, but he did low light laser. And he used the acupuncture. I guess he followed a similar pattern when he did that. And we were doing well. And then one day he threw in a pituitary something.
And it was too much.
And yes.
Yeah. You have to be when somebody has Lyme, you have to go so mindfully and attentively and really pay attention to teeny tiny things, because people can have really big reactions to small things. And I teach my patients when they go to their providers to say, I know when you go to medical school that you are taught when you hear hoofbeats Think horse is not zebra. I am a zebra. I need you to incorporate that into your thinking. You know, because just not every case is straightforward and not every person is straightforward. And we're back to what I was talking about earlier when I first began, that Lyme is a goo disease. Goo diseases are tricky. We're talking about Lyme, long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome. People respond very differently to care, and you have to be willing to pivot very quickly depending on how the person in front of you responds. You know, that's my lived experience anyway. But, you know, heating pad on your low back, on your low belly, that's only going to be a good thing to try and see if it makes a difference for you. Also, soaking your feet in hot water with a cup of Epsom salts. Optic neuritis is tricky, and you for sure want to make sure you are seeing. What state are you in?
In Massachusetts.
You're in Massachusetts. Okay. So have you been to Mass Eye and Ear?
No, I mean, this was many years ago, and I did get over it.
Okay.
And actually, the one time I had a flare up was when I went to hot yoga, and the person who was teaching the class asked me if I wanted to be touched, and I said only if I'm doing something wrong. But that we were not on the same page, because she touched me every chance she got, and she pushed really hard, and I was a mess afterward and had to go to the eye doctor.
Right. Well, it doesn't sound like. What part of the state are you in, if it's okay to ask?
South Shore.
All right. So look up, if you're interested, Devorah Feinbloom, Feinbloom. She's a network chiropractor near Lynn. Is that anywhere near you?
No.
No. Okay. So excuse my ignorance of Massachusetts. I live in Northampton, and evidently I don't know a lot, but at least about that. But she might have a referral for you.
Okay.
And if you contact her, tell her Amy Major suggested you contact her. I've been friends with her for years, and my husband is a network chiropractor, and so is she. And if you're going to see anyone that does chiropractic, that would be my recommendation for you, because there's a lot going on in your nerve system, and we want someone who's just gonna have a highly tuned awareness of their attention and intention as they're working with you, and that doesn't do bone shoving, which they don't do. So,
well, actually, tonight was that's why I was late. This was my last appointment with my chiropractor before she went no insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's tricky when you have a provider that you like, because it sounds like you've been with this person for a long time.
Yes, a very long
time. My condolences. I don't know what to tell you.
My
husband doesn't take insurance either, but I take all insurances, because I believe that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and the only way to do that is to take all insurances. So, did she have a recommendation for you? Because before they dismiss you, they're supposed to give you a recommendation for 3 people.
I talked to the receptionist, and she said that they did that, even though I didn't get it, and that all of the people they sent info about, none of them took insurance.
I would circle back with them, because they're required to give you 3 references that do take insurance, if they used to. I'm sorry, I find that sad and embarrassing, and I'm not a chiropractor and I don't have that information, but I'm sad.
Yeah.
Because I would not like to see you treated that way.
Natalie, you're on the South Shore?
Yes.
I'll do some research for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. You're the best. This community is so lucky to have you and your due diligence. Truth.
Excuse me, Debbie again. Do you have a recommendation for a chiropractor in or around Northampton that does accept insurance?
Yes, Susan Denny is in Northampton and accepts all insurances.
Thank you
And
very much.
you're welcome.
While nobody's talking, I just wanted to say thank you for your immense knowledge and helping people.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a privilege. Everybody should be able to live in good health and growth. Sorry, my puppy just came in and was demanding my attention. But everyone should be able to have the best care possible and deserves to be treated with compassion. You know, I mean, I was at the dentist today and they asked me for, oh, we have 5 stars reviews. Will you give us a review? And I said, I'd love to give you a review, but you know what? These were my expectations when I went, you know, to get a plan before I left and to know what the cost would be. And I left with none of that information. So I wasn't thrilled, you know, and that's real, but everybody deserves to be treated with respect and compassion and to be told, I don't know if someone doesn't know something rather than no, right? I don't know about probiotics is different than you shouldn't be taking them, right? That's a really different answer. And, you know, prebiotics and probiotics are both really important, right? Prebiotic fiber, inulin, chicory, chia seeds, really important. And insoluble fiber, insoluble and soluble fiber. And if you are taking chia seeds and psyllium, you get both of those things. Sorry, my son came in and I had to tell him that I was finishing a meeting. But anybody have any other questions? I'm happy to answer them if you have them, if there's something that I can answer.
I'm in the midst of looking for a physician who will understand about Lyme.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have, I live in Amherst,
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
near, you know, in the
So
area.
look up Deborah Hoadley. She's in Longmeadow. She's a
Oh,
Lyme
that's far.
specialist. It is, but she's a Lyme specialist.
Oh,
Hoadley. If you don't know about her, Maria, do you know about her?
That was my Lyme doctor when I first came here. She practices, it's just herself. She's difficult to get a hold of and has a long wait list, but if you're persistent, and the best way to reach her is by email. She's a very good Lyme doctor, only takes certain types of Medicaid.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's also, I mean, out of Cooley Dick, Rick Granowitz is an MD that I know. He's an infectious disease specialist. He's a really smart guy, but I don't know. Like he generally refers to me for acupuncture, but I don't know where he is in terms of the spectrum of what his belief system is around Lyme, because it seems like that's a key piece is what is the MD's worldview and belief system. And I don't know, and I apologize, but I do know he's a really smart guy and a good guy, and he's a straight shooter, so he will tell you if he can help you or not. In terms of Vanessa, no, the chicory was just in terms of fiber, not for headaches. For headaches, do want you to soak your feet in hot water, do want to make sure you're hydrated, do want to make sure you're not having any sinus pressure or pain, which means for folks, any person that has a headache, don't laugh. Please make sure you are flossing every night because our teeth are right under our sinuses. And when we have plaque, then we are, you know, just a vector for bacteria. So please consider anyone who has headaches using xylitol toothpaste as long as you don't have an allergy, because xylitol eats plaque. So it's a way, yeah, to get double duty from your toothpaste.
Well, Bella, we do have a database of people. There's very few in the valley that are still taking insurance for Lyme patients.
It's very problematic. It's really hard considering how many people there are in the valley and how many medical practices. I hear from my patients how difficult it is to find a primary care provider. And it's like, I mean, I schedule my annual every year just so I make sure I'm still on my provider's schedule, you know, because they'll kick you off. And then it's really hard.
The practice I go to, Atkinson, had to start concierge medicine just to support them keeping their Medicare and Medicaid patients.
Wow.
So they got someone in from out of state who's doing strictly concierge medicine.
Wow.
That will financially support the practice, which is busy, but
Yeah.
because Medicare and Medicaid isn't paying well,
Tell me about it.
They had to take on this extra service.
Well, it's as I said to you, I testified in front of the Division of Insurance, right, to ask for their support. I said, I'm here to ask for your support, see more patients for less money and more paperwork. And he said, I've never heard anybody say it that way. And I said, but that is the reality of taking Medicaid. That's why I run 4 rooms, because in order to make it work financially, I have to just see a lot of patients. So there we go. So we are at the 7:27. Are there any more questions? I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you, Maria, for reaching out, and Nellie, and thank you for showing up tonight. And I wish each of you continued and complete healing, you know, on your journeys. And if there's any way I can support you, please reach out.
Amy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and for taking the time tonight. Really, and for your advocacy. Thank you.
My pleasure.
On behalf of all of those of us
pleasure.
with Medicare and Medicaid and people who really want to access acupuncture.